South African Reserve Bank Monetary Policy Committee is set to announce its interest rates decision this afternoon on Wednesday. Statistics South Africa released consumer inflation results, which indicate inflation slowed for a third consecutive month in August to the lowest it has been since April 2021. For more on what we can expect, we are now joined by the head of fixed income at Ashburton Investments, that is Albert Botha. Albert, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for making time for us. Albert, I know that we are supposed to speak about the MPC, but somebody who is in the economic space, I just want to quickly find out from you. From your end, I don't know if you've ever had any interaction with Pravin Gordhan, especially when he was the Minister of Finance. How would you describe him?
Good morning. It's good to be here. So personally, I never had the honor of meeting the late minister. I have attended several functions where he was a speaker. I think one of the things that always stood out, that he was, or at least viewed from our perspective, he was unbendable in his views. He was seen as someone who had a very, very strong opinion on what was right and what was wrong, and didn't really have a willingness to deviate from that. And it's, I think, one of the things that people in the markets respected him for is that he had a very strong moral opinion of the world, and he stuck to it throughout his career. And as we know, he served in government, and he served the people up until months before he passed away. So I think from a markets perspective, there were a lot of people that, as you said earlier, you don't always agree with people, but you can respect that they have significant moral integrity.
Yeah, and I have to say, one of the things that stand out for me is when he delivers his budget speeches and how he would pronounce the currency of the country. He'd speak about the rand. It is the rand. Speaking about the rand and how strong the rand has been and the expectations from the MPC a bit later on today. Some people are saying 25 basis points, others are saying 50 basis points. But do you agree that the signal is that there is going to be a cut?
Well, yes. So firstly, I think that there is nothing can always be said with 100% certainty, but a rate cut this afternoon is about as certain as you can make it. The difficulty the governor and the rest of this Reserve Bank has is that they made their rate decision before the announcement of the Fed decision last night. So they went into their rate decision a little bit blindly. And as we know, last night, the FOMC and the Fed surprised economists, at least, by announcing a 50 basis point rate cut. Now that does free up the SARB to more easily also announce rate cuts. So given they've cut more than 25, they've cut 50, it makes the likelihood of a rate cut in South Africa just even larger.
Yeah, and also looking at the inflation rate in the stats that came out yesterday from Stats SA, right below that midpoint that the South African Reserve Bank governor has been saying that is what we are targeting. So would you say on that basis as well, perhaps maybe there could be a cut?
Yes, that's another factor that plays in, is the lower inflation rate. Also, not just the current inflation rate, but also the fact that the market expects inflation to continue to fall further into next year. There has been talks by the governor and by the Reserve Bank that they want to, at some point in the future, lower that inflation target. We're not there yet, but at the moment, at least, the fact that inflation is down, the fact that inflation is under control, and also that we did not have, to any extent, the degree of inflation, either surprises or upside or crisis, that the rest of the first world, specifically Europe and the US, saw. Our Reserve Bank managed to keep inflation meaningfully more under control. So the fact that inflation is low and likely to go lower also gives the SARB meaningful capacity to cut at this point.
Yeah. A final one, the two-pot system, do you think that the MPC will be reflecting on that and also looking at the negotiations for public servants' wage as well? Do you think that there could be a reflection on that?
So, having never sat in those meetings, all the things that they potentially talk about is difficult. I would suspect the MPC talks about almost everything that could potentially increase GDP in this country. The two-pot system that's been brought in has given the economy and is likely to give the economy a little bit of a shot in the arm. But I don't think it's going to meaningfully affect the inflation rate going forward. So while I imagine they've probably discussed it, it's unlikely that they would meaningfully think it will affect the rates. And then, so I don't think that the two-part system would have had a meaningful effect on their rate decisions today.
Okay, then thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. That is Albert Botha, the head of fixed income at Ashburton Investment. Really appreciate your time. It's